Hey guys, so just so you know, today it's all win as we rebuild this carburetor and get it in prime shape to run on the old Model A. I'll be up front, if you're looking for some fast action and big work on the car, you're going to be disappointed. But if you happen to have one of these guys, the old Edelbrock carburetor, and you need to figure out how to get it rebuilt, you might enjoy this video, so follow along. Hey, glad you joined me again. Today we're going to jump into the joys of rebuilding a carburetor. So follow along as I take my Edelbrock 1405 manual choke 600 CFM carburetor and put a rebuild kit in it. Let's jump in and do this. Okay, so before we start rebuilding this carburetor, there's a few things we got to cover first. Let me go over tools that I'm going to use, the kit that I'm going to use, and then some safety equipment. The kit that we're using is this. It costs about 40 bucks. I don't know a way to get around that. I had to buy two of them because I got two carburetors. If you guys know any tricks, put a little comment down there about where you can get these things cheaper, but it's a good kit. It's actually pretty complete, has what a guy needs. And good directions. Speaking of the directions, there's a giant, there's lots of stuff. It tells you how to disassemble it, how to reassemble, has graphs and charts on all the different parts inside the carburetor. I recommend the kit, and if you're up for a challenge, you can do it in French or Spanish as well. That's up to you. Some other things I got some screwdrivers I'm going to need, some pliers, other tools to get this thing apart. I've got my brake clean. I know I'm cleaning a carburetor with brake clean, but it is what it is, and that stuff works pretty good. Just make sure you don't get it in your coffee. Safety glasses as well. If you guys don't have safety glasses, I highly recommend you invest in a good set. It's worth it, right? You can see how chewed up these things are, and they bounce, bounce stuff off my eyes all the time, and chemicals and whatnot. If you get a good set like these ESS ones, you can pop the lens right out, clean it up real good. If it gets too bad, you can replace it. And this set that I have here comes with different colored lenses as well. So I just use their dark lens for when I can even use that with my torch or whatnot. But I like using the clear lens. And you see my videos, I wear them just about all the time. And they're pretty easy to maintain. Pop in, snap that in place, put my nose piece back in, and we're back on it. So, okay, without any further ado, let's jump into this carburetor. Okay, so let's jump right into it. First things first, we're going to pull these metering rods out and the covers off. And I recommend you do something like this, have a little organizer tray where you can throw your parts in there, ones that we're going to reuse. So we save them in there to clean them up. Ones we're not going to reuse, you can throw in one bin and just throw them in a Ziploc bag and save them in your parts bin, because a guy never knows when you're going to need to pull some of those parts out and use them. These are all going to get reused, and we're going to clean those things up a little bit. A couple of the other things I do here in my garage, I have this gray. It's kind of like a carpet. It's for working on your desk and on your bench. I like using it because it keeps my parts from getting lost, actually. All right, that one's stuck down. That would have been a real pain if I wanted to just stick this carburetor on and use it, and that's why, honestly, why we do the rebuild kit. There we go. That's gonna have to get clean. All right, once we get that thing out, then we'll come over here, and you think about it, we kind of start a sequence. We're gonna clean some stuff off the top. We'll disconnect the things that need disconnected, take apart as much as we can, and then we're gonna lift the top off. Here's about the only clip that you really gotta be careful about is over here for the accelerator pump. It's just one of these little tiny clips. But don't worry if you lose it, that kit has more clips in there. So Technique also, hey, here's something that I think recommend. Same thing if you're doing brakes on a car, like drum brakes. I recommend you come in here, take your phone, snap a couple pictures. Because certain things like, well, which hole is this on? Is my accelerator pump hooked up on? Okay, that's good. We're going to take all of these screws out that have the top, hold the top down. We'll put those in here with the big stuff. They'll all get cleaned up and replaced. Just got to figure out how to get this top piece unstuck so that it'll come off. Okay, sometimes when it's real stubborn, I wouldn't use a metal hammer, but I can use my rubber hammer. Knock it on the edge a little bit, and there we go. Okay, before that comes all the way out, this piece comes off. Just the arm for our accelerator pump, which we took the spring out, or the clip out of that a minute ago. But then you can come in here and grab this screw and take this piece off as well. There we go. Okay, this S-clip they call it. S-clip right here. Just look where it looks like. It's in the proper orientation of an S if you look at the front of the carburetor. Okay, and that linkage comes off, that'll get cleaned up. And this guy can come out and all that gunk can come off. And your choke linkage also has one of these little clips, just like the accelerator pump did. But you want to be careful. Pop that guy out. That comes out, and then this linkage, it clocks into the linkage there, so you can take that piece out, put it in the cleanup pile. Okay. And there's our accelerator pump linkage. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. Everything's stuck under the gasket, and of course the gasket's stuck to the top of the carburetor. So take your time, work it loose. Come on now. And there we go. Very carefully. You can see that's top of your carburetor. Okay, accelerator pump comes out. That thing's pretty hammered. The spring comes out that was in the accelerator pump. See all that dust fly off of there? This is why we are cleaning this carburetor. Okay, you ready for this? Watch this. That is why a guy goes about cleaning and rebuilding a carburetor before you just throw it on your car. Otherwise, all of this junk would end up clogging that thing up as we try to run it. Okay. Let's go back to the top of the carburetor. Okay, once we got this off of here, we have to deconstruct the float assemblies, which is pretty easy. There's just a little pin right here, which will push that guy out. Grab it, slide it out, put it in the small parts, take the float off, and then right here you got your needle and seat. Look how junked up that is. That's why we're taking this guy apart. And then you need your big screwdriver to fit in there and loosen that guy up. And we'll do the same for the other side. If you look in the kit, there's a new set of these in there, so I'm not too concerned about Keeping track of these. Look at that. I do like to see how much junk comes out. This thing was pretty rough shape. Okay, and then save the gasket just so you can reference it later. We could come in and continue to take this thing apart and pull this choke mechanism out, but I'm just going to clean it up. Set that to the side. Now we get to deconstruct the bottom half of the carburetor. And here's how far I'm going to go. I'm going to take my venturis out, my squirters out, and we'll pull the jets out. And then we'll make sure those are all clean and we'll keep track of them. And then we're just going to clean this base and put it back together. So let's get on it. Okay, jets. They're hiding down in here, okay? Primaries, secondaries. I'm here to tell you it takes a magnifying glass to be able to read the number on it. Yeah, they look like the same as my other carburetor as far as the sizes go. Hey, if you guys aren't tracking this too, technique. I have this piece of cardboard here that I keep my parts on in the order they came out. Left, right, primary, secondary. Okay? And then when I pull the rest of the carburetor apart, I'm going to set those pieces on there and keep track of them so that I don't get them all mixed up. Okay, those are out. Let's go back to the star bit. There we go, as we're going to remove all of these. Let's do it. Once again, you don't want to get too aggressive and use too much tool. But you can if you want it to be quicker. Watch these guys, because down on the bottom, you got another little gasket on them. Okay, and then the directions aren't very good, but you do want to pay attention to how you pull these out of the car. Come out. Okay, and then the only other thing I'm going to do here is my idle air adjustments screws. They're going to come all the way out. And I'll go right and left on those. I do have this vacuum port out. Hey, and that's as far as apart as I'm going to take this thing, okay? So again, shake the junk out of it. Our upper piece. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do, take some of my brake clean, put my eyeglasses on, and I'm going to clean this stuff up the very best that I can. Spray it, wipe it, take my compressed air, and blow it all out when I'm done. We'll be back. Hey, I just realized I missed an important piece of this whole operation. This little guy, or squirter here, and this is probably where you'll screw it up if you're not paying attention. Take the squirter screws out, because we definitely want to get down in there and clean. And the carburetor kit has the replacement pieces under here, but when you pull this piece out, this is where it gets tricky. Okay, that comes out, great. We'll clean that up. It's got the gasket. Yep, save that, because the last time I did this, the kit didn't have that gasket. But watch this, okay? Here we go. Aha! See that? That's the one that if you're just screwing around and you flip that open, that you drop that on your garage floor and it's never to be seen again. But it's got this little ball. It's a little check valve, is what it is. Ball and this stopper here. We'll drop those in the little parts, and we'll make sure we clean that out as well. Okay, so now just time to clean. Okay, now that we got the carburetor all cleaned up, each component cleaned up real well, and ready for reassembly, let's see what comes in this kit. Like I said earlier, needle seat's good, the little filter and a gasket come with it. I think when we took that thing apart there wasn't a gasket on it, was there? Yeah, there is. Okay, it's just stuck to it. Alright, same thing on this for the other side. Okay, a new spring, which is good because this one was pretty dirty. I cleaned it up, but there we go. Okay, and then we got gaskets, and let's see what we have here. This bag's pretty important. There we go, with all the little gaskets for each of the, for the squirter, the venturi, whatchamacallers. More of those little clips, even comes with a vacuum plug, that's good. Okay, this is good, it's kind of bent, but it'll work. Big gasket, these we don't need yet. You can put those to the side. This little measure is going to be pretty critical because we're going to adjust the floats. The instructions won't tell you how to replace this, but it's important for the squirter. Same with this guy. Gasket for the fuel inlet. And then some mystery parts we're not going to use. Let's get to reassembling. Okay, I told you the squirter. This thing, I don't know what the trick is to make it come apart correctly, but I know that if you come in here like this, you can just work it off there without breaking any of those tabs. Or I guess you could just cut the old one off if it was crap. And then we'll just slip the new one on. I literally buy this stuff by the gallon. I'll put a little bit on there. When we put this thing together, we want that to move smoothly. So, okay, I'm going to take these things out of the bag, assemble the little filter in the end, which is kind of a hard, and put the washer on it. Okay, you ready? Let's start putting this thing together. We're going to first put in our needle and seat setup. So screw those in both sides. Drop it in, tighten her down. Big enough screwdriver. Okay. Okay, so we're going to set the top of this carburetor up. We're going to put our floats in and install them, and then I'm going to show you how to adjust the float. And that's about all the fine tuning I'm going to get on this carburetor. Once I'm sure the floats work okay, then we will, or are set up correctly, then we'll just go slam the rest of it together. So, okay, we got those in there. Now we're going to drop the needle valve in, and these look so much better than the ones that came out. Very gently. Drop those in. Get our float, which we cleaned up, and my float pins. Very carefully slide those in. Left and right, does it matter? I don't think so. They look the same, and we're going to adjust them anyway. Okay, let's talk adjustment on this thing. So, with the gasket in place, 7/16 between this float and the gasket. Okay? Now, how are we going to check that? You can come in here with a 7/16 drill bit. See how there's a little bit of difference there? Let's get a closer look at it. Okay, 7/16 drill bit just barely hits it. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise this up a little. I don't want to smash the needle down on the seat, but I am going to bend this up a touch. Now let's check it. Getting closer. There we go. Okay. Now we got to do the same thing on the other side. Check it. Barely touching. So without smashing the needle and seat, we'll give that a little bit of a bend up. Okay, there we go. 7/16. That's for the up stop on the float drop. Float, now we need to check the drop. And the way we adjust the drop is right here, this little arm on the back. You can see where it stops there. That's how we adjust the drop. So I'll get that little tape measure that they gave us with the kit, and we know for the drop portion, we want this to be 15/16 of an inch. Okay? And that is on the front. So, all right, well, let's do some adjusting. Okay, back to this. I don't know what the deal is from the factory or how they're set up like this, because the other carburetor I rebuilt was just the same. Way long on the adjustment, you know, when it says in there that it needs to be 15/16. All right, so let's get busy bending those tabs. I guess the right way to do it would be to pop it out of there, which I'll do. And then we'll bend those tabs down a little bit to make it stop. Okay, I am going to call that really close. There you go. If I'm about 15/16 from the gasket, it comes right down to the, all right, that's all the float's going to move in there. All right, well, that's what the book says it should be set at, so we'll set both sides at that, and we'll go for it, man. Anyway, so that's how you set the bowl on the old Edelbrock carburetor. Let's measure this side now. How'd we do? I think that's good. What do you think? Okay. Good smooth movement. Technique I'll do here, I'll shoot a little bit of WD right in there so that it doesn't get stuck. That's always such a pain. We go to start the car and the float's stuck and it overflows. There we go. We got good smooth movement there. A little bit on the gasket wouldn't hurt it. Won't hurt it. All right, that's to the side. Now let's go to reassembling this top piece. Okay. And if you remember, we set everything exactly in the position that needs to come, that it came off the carburetor. Whoops. Stay there so that we know which position it'll go in. Okay. Just remember, primaries, secondaries, in position. Let's go for it. Putting things back in somewhat in the order they came out, maybe not. But I'm going to start with my jets. Holley carburetors are so much easier to change jets on, but a little more finicky and a little harder to maintain, my opinion. These seem to be just a little bit more forgiving. Okay, jets are in. Now let's install, let's do this little squirter so we don't forget. Remember that little little ball? We're going to drop that guy right down there. Like that. And then our squirter goes on top of that with a fresh gasket, just like so. Screws back in. And button it down. How tight do you get it? I don't know. And tight. Snug it down. I don't know. Put a comment down there below if you have a better solution for that. Okay. And then our gasket goes on it. Drop it down in. There we go. Screws go in. And we'll come back and tighten those up. Same thing for the other side. There's pretty much only one way this gasket fits on there. And that's not it. There we go. Drop them in. screws go in. We'll come back and tighten those up. Don't forget this guy. Now we're talking. We have it here. All right, we'll run those back down. Okay. A couple more critical things while we have this here. Our idle air adjustment screws. Just bring these guys down to snug. You don't want to jam it against the bottom and put a groove in there or anything. It's got to be smooth. So we just bring it down to snug. Come on now. And then back off 1.5 turns. Half turn, 1 turn, 1.5 turns. And that's a good starting point for tuning. Now, before we drop this on, I was looking through parts that came out, and I don't think this piece ever came off the carburetor. And that's this guy here for the squirter accelerator pump. Pretty close. Okay, let's drop the top on. Now that we know we got it adjusted real fine. There we go. Just throw that anywhere. Okay. All right, now, come on. That needs to line up. Okay. Screw this in while I'm thinking about it. Put the linkage in. Okay, once you get that to go in that hole down there, all it's going to take is putting that on. Yeah, there we go. It goes in that way. Like so. We'll put the S-clip in, which if you remember, if you're looking at the front of the carburetor, it is a properly oriented S. Like that. And then that one funny looking screw goes in here. Okay, run that down. Okay. The second piece of linkage we need to hook up is for our choke. Remember, it's got this little guy right here that clocks into that hole. Only goes in one way. And then hooks in there. Okay. Got that in. Let's stick our clips on. That clip is on. Remember when we took this thing apart and what it calls for on these carburetors, the 1405, 1406 middle hole for the accelerator pump. So we put it back in the middle hole, put our clip back on. Now we're to where we can start putting this stuff together. That goes over there. All these screws in, and we'll run them down, and then we'll hand tighten them. Doesn't like to fit. And we'll go every other screw now back the other way. Okay, screws are in the top. Seems to function like it should. The last thing we got to do is to put our needles in and springs and caps on. clean these guys all up, clean up the holes real good. Just remember to put your spring in. Drop it down, and if you have one of those old school, really nice Carter strip kits, you can sit here and fine tune this carburetor once it's on and running. Bring it in here. Make sure that still moves up and down inside there. Come one side in. Put you back in there. Put you back on there. Come on now. Okay, there you have it. Okay, well, I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Anybody who's going around rebuilding your Edelbrock 1405, 1406 is the same. I think that's the right numbers. Only difference being mechanical choke versus electric. So I hope you found that useful. If you know somebody who's getting ready to do this, share the video with them. If you just found my channel, go back and check out a bunch of the other ones. Normally I'm working on my Model A. Or doing some other fun stuff like that. But either way, please subscribe and put a comment down there. You like it, you didn't, let me know what you'd like to see more of. I sure appreciate your support. All right, thank you, take care.